If you're interested in doing a DIY kegerator, this video is going to be a shopping list for you. You'll see all the pieces that you need to turn an old mini fridge over into a full-fledged kegerator, so stick around. What's going on, adventurers? My name's Travis and welcome back to another project. In today's video, I put together a shopping list of all the parts you'll need to turn an old mini fridge over into a kegerator. I'm gonna take you through my kegerator, show you every piece so you can understand how they work, how they go together to make your project go that much easier. When I put together my kegerator, I was lucky enough to find a full kit from Kegco that included all the pieces that I needed. Unfortunately, I can't seem to find that kit anymore. There's similar kits out there, like ones that are used for a full-size fridge, and then you mount the taps on the outside of the door, but I can't seem to find the full kit that includes the tower to have a setup like I have. So I wanted to put together a video that breaks down all the parts you need and put together a list. That way you can piece together all the pieces that I got in this kit. I'll post the list in the description below with some links that you can click on. It'll just make the process easy for you. If you're new to the channel, we are all about projects that add adventure to your life. So if you love the outdoors, working with your hands, and want to get the most out of your next adventure, this is the channel for you. Remember to hit that subscribe button, which you can do by clicking that little button in the bottom corner of the screen, and make sure you hit that bell icon. That'll just make sure that you're notified every time a new video is dropped. About 8 months ago, we built this really cool kegerator cabinet. It was a really fun winter project to complete. It houses our kegerator with our 2-tap tower setup mounted to the top. We also added a wine fridge to complete a full home bar. Then we finished it off with a distressed wood finish, which gives it a really neat vintage look. This was the first time I've ever built a piece of furniture this large, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, and it looks really nice in our dining room here behind us. There wasn't a ton of information on how to build one of these. I had to piece it together from different sources online. So I made a full build series. It's a 3-part series. You can follow along, see how we put this thing together. I'll post a link to the series in the description below. That way you can check it out and put together one of these awesome kegerator cabinets yourself. A few weeks ago, I was tagged in a post by a user that had checked out our build series and was inspired to build his very own kegerator cabinet. It was really neat to see the pictures of the finished kegerator cabinet. You could see a couple similarities, but what was incredible was there was even more differences, little unique touches that he added that made this project his own. So post a comment below if you're interested in building one of these kegerator cabinets or already have. You know, what are the things that you added, the little touches that made it personalized and made it your own? I love seeing your guys' projects coming together and seeing the final project complete. So let's open up this kegerator and get this shopping list started. So this is our kegerator. It's built out of a 4.4 cubic foot Danby mini fridge. You can find these online pretty easy. We picked up this on our local buy and sell. You can buy them brand new, but there's enough of them out there that you can get away with a used one. If you're picking up one of these fridges, you want to make sure you get the model that doesn't have the overhead freezer up here. It just makes the conversion go that much easier. So this entire thing was just a fridge. So all you have to really do is pull the shelves out and then cut out the shelves on the door, and you're pretty much off to the races. So open this thing up and take a peek inside. So the first piece of the puzzle that you'll need is a keg. There's lots of different styles of kegs out there, but your best bet is one of these ball lock corny kegs. They're also known as Cornelius kegs. There's a couple reasons why these work really well for a home kegerator setup. You can see they're nice and tall and narrow, so you can actually fit 2 kegs in this fridge with this style of keg. Looking at the top of the keg, they're really easy to use. They have a lid that's easily removable. So it's perfect for a home brewer. If you make your own beer like I do, you can easily siphon it into your keg and then hook it up to your kegerator. It's fairly easy to find these kegs online. They used to be soft drink kegs, so this is what soft drinks used to come in. So there's lots of them out there if you want to buy a used one. We went with a brand new keg. The reason I did that was if you buy a used keg, lots of times you have to buy a rebuild kit. It comes with new seals and they're usually pretty dented and banged up. So we found this one online for a pretty good deal. So it's brand new, doesn't leak, just works really nice. So I moved the keg over to the other side so you can get a better view of the CO2 tank and regulator at the back. We'll start at the CO2 tank and work all the way through the entire system, and you can see all the pieces along the way. So this is our CO2 tank. It's a 5-pound CO2 tank. We ordered it online. When you get it, it comes empty, so you have to get it filled. You have to look in your local area. I was able to find a party rental place that actually fills up these CO2 tanks, so I can bring it there, get it topped up, and it lasts for about two and a bit kegs. When you get these tanks filled, it helps to actually put them in the fridge before you go. It keeps the metal nice and cold, and then they're able to fill it up to its maximum capacity of 5 pounds. If you don't do this, they can't quite get it all the way. So next up, I've got our regulator here. So to hook up our regulator, I just use some Teflon tape. The regulator threads onto the CO2 tank. This regulator is set up for 2 taps. So what that means is it has 2 lines that come off of it, so we can hook it up to 2 separate kegs. That way, when we add another keg eventually, we can just have the CO2 coming off of this same regulator. If you're thinking about building a system, it really helps to just think about the number of kegs that you're going to have. You know, you don't want to have to go back out and rebuy all these pieces. So we eventually want to have the 2 kegs. So by having that extra line, it just makes it that much easier. If we were to buy a single regulator and wanted to add one down the way, it's just a real big pain. You'd have to buy a new regulator, you'd have to buy more lines. It's just quite an extra amount of work. The gauges on this regulator show you the PSI that we have it set to, so there's a knob on the regulator. We usually dial it in anywhere between 10 and 12 PSI. That gives us a really nice serving pressure so it doesn't blow out of the taps. The other gauge shows you the amount of pressure in your tank. It's a little odd. It usually hangs out around 550 PSI. And it'll just stay there. So as that CO2 is liquid, it will just stay at that pressure. If you start to see that needle drop, you'll know that the tank is almost empty because that liquid has all turned to a gas and now the pressure in the tank is going down. So like I said, this regulator is set up for 2 kegs. So it's got 2 barbs so you can have 2 lines that come off of it. Each one of these barbs has its own individual shut-off. Once my beer is all carbonated, I actually like to shut off that valve just to make sure if there's any little leaks in the system, that way you don't start losing your CO2. So next up, we have our gas line. So that's this blue line here. So to connect this blue gas line to the regulator, we just use a hose clamp that's very similar to this one. We just got a couple of these hose clamps. You just tighten it down and it works really well. If you're having a tricky time getting this line onto the barb, you can put it in a cup of warm water. This will just make it a little more pliable so you can slide it over. So you can see at the end here, we've got this gray fitting here. So this is a gas ball lock fitting. So the gray ones are the gas and the black ones are your liquid. So the liquid ones are the liquid post on your keg. That's where your beer will actually come out and head up to your tap. So they look very similar, but they don't fit correctly on the opposite post. So the gray ones are your gas line. This fitting is connected with another one of these hose clamps. It's really easy to use once you get it on. It's just a quick connect, so you just pull up the little collar here and you can push it onto the post on your keg. Now, as we get to the top of the keg here, you can see that we've got our gas line here up at the front. So these posts, like I said, are very similar, but they work differently. The way it works is the gas line post is just a short little post that puts the gas into the keg. That'll fill up the headspace at the top. That pressure is going to push down on the beer, and then you have a little siphon tube that goes down to the bottom of your keg. That pressure pushes that beer up the siphon tube, so when you pour, it'll go out of the liquid fitting, which is the black fitting, and then head up to your taps. So like I said, this black fitting is our liquid fitting. So this is where your beer is going to come out. The nice part is when you order these, they usually come in pairs, so you'll get a gray and a black ball lock fitting together. We have 2 of these set up, so when we get a new keg, we can just hook it up and we'll be all set to get our second tap hooked up. So this liquid fitting is connected with just another one of those hose clamps. So this goes to our beer line. Beer lines come in different diameters. This is 7/16 beer line. It seems to be one of the most common sizes for home kegging setups. So you just want to make sure whatever beer line you're getting and whatever gas line you're getting, that it's the correct size for the barb that comes off of here. They usually come in pretty standard sizes. So like I said, this is 7/16 beer line. So other than the diameter of the beer line, you have to think about the length of the beer line. If your beer line is too long for the pressure you're using, when you open your tap, there won't be enough PSI to force it through with the friction of the beer line. The rough rule of thumb is we have about 5 feet of beer line and then run at about 10 to 12 PSI. That seems to be a fairly standard setup. So if you start with, 5.5 feet of beer line, and then you can tweak your PSI to get a nice pour on your taps. If it's blowing out, you might need to have a longer length of beer line, and if it's not pouring at all, then you'd have to trim this beer line down. The nice part with most of the tower setups you order, they actually come with all the fittings and the beer lines. So that's how this was. It had a different fitting on the end here, and we had to cut that fitting off and push this ball lock fitting on. It's pretty tricky getting this on. We had to soak it in some nice hot water before we could get it to go on. The tower I'll post in the description below is the 2-tap tower, and it actually comes with these lines, so it makes it really easy. So these beer lines then move up through the top of our kegerator. We have a hole cut in the top and move up into our tower, so we'll move up there and take a look at that. So this is our Kegerator tower here. So this is our 2-tap tower. It houses both of our taps. So one of them is going right now. The other one is ready to be hooked up with those lines underneath. So those beer lines travel up through that hole in the top of our Kegerator. We drilled a hole in the countertop of our Kegerator cabinet, and those lines just travel up and into this tower. This tower was fairly easy to mount. It comes with all the hardware and this nice little bezel at the bottom here, so you can screw this tower to the countertop here, or there are ways to mount it right to the Kegerator if you want to have that exposed fridge look. It looks like there's a few things that you have to do because you have to reinforce the roof of the Kegerator to do that. So like I said, the beer lines come with this tower. So the beer lines travel up here and then there's a little elbow fitting to screw them onto the taps here. These taps also come with the tower, so there's no fitment issues. They're fairly standard size, but if you're getting different taps, you just need to make sure that the screw-on fitting is the correct one for your tower. So you can take apart these taps to clean them. They're really easy to take apart. Now there are different tower setups you can go with. Kegco also makes a 3-tap tower that looks very similar to this with just a 3rd tap in the middle. I've also seen where people build their own towers. They're really neat if you put together some of these threaded metal pipes and paint them. They're really intricate and you can really do some cool things with them. Another way you can customize your tower is these pull handles on the taps actually thread on, so you can either buy or you can make different handles just to get the look you're going for. I think that'll be our next purchase. There's a really cool wooden handle available with a little chalkboard on it, so you can customize it, write what beer is on each tap. I think that'd be really neat. Finally, the last piece we have here is this drip tray. So this isn't something that you absolutely need. You could get away without it, but it works so well. Every time you pour, there's always a little bit afterwards that'll drip down. Over time, it just makes a mess of your countertop. These drip trays are really nice. You can mount them, but we just went with setting it here. It's heavy enough that it doesn't move, and it makes it really easy. You can pick it up, carry it over to the sink, and get it all cleaned out. To clean it, it works really easy. You can just lift out this grate, clean out the bottom. It catches everything. That way, if somebody messed up and actually left the tap on for a second or two, you don't make a huge mess of your countertop. Plus, it just makes a really nice finished look. You can put it back there, set it in place, and you can tell that this is just a functioning beer tap. Now, if you're on a tight budget, I would say this is probably the thing that you could forego for now. You don't really need it, but I highly, highly recommend it, and I've really enjoyed having this. So that's it. That's the complete shopping list of all the parts you need to turn a mini fridge over into a full-fledged kegerator. Remember, I'll post the full list of all these pieces in the description below with some links. That way it's really easy to put your order together. If there's any parts of this video that were confusing or you want some more information, post a comment below, and remember to subscribe and hit that little bell to be notified every time a new video comes online. So I hope this video makes your kegerator conversion go just that much easier. It's a really fun, rewarding project. If you're interested in checking out the full build series of this kegerator cabinet, remember I'll post a link in the description below. It's a lot easier to do than you would think. You can follow along and put together one of these kegerator cabinets yourself. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you again really soon for another adventure project.